This video will show basic readout functionality in HOBOware. We're going to read data out of a data logger that's been recording some data over a period of time. Please keep in mind that this readout dialog box in HOBOware is very similar from data logger to data logger throughout all of the HOBO family of loggers. So please be assured that even if this logger is different than the one you're using, this readout dialog box will look very similar for your particular data logger. So we're going to connect the logger to our USB port. Again, if this is an optical logger, you would still get the same interface here, the same feedback. We're going to connect the logger to our USB port, and it will be recognized by HOBOware. Let me zoom in on that lower left-hand corner of the screen. You can see it's connected. And to read it out, we would go to, there's a couple of different ways of doing that. There is a menu choice. There's also an icon. The second icon in is Readout. Or you can click on Device and Read Out, or click on Control R to read out your data. The data logger is currently logging and it still has memory available, so we have the ability to offload the data and leave the logger logging by clicking on Don't Stop, or we can say stop and the logger will stop logging and it will have to be relaunched in order to begin logging again. Keep in mind that if you select Don't Stop and then you let the logger continue to log and then you offload it again or read it out again in the future, you will not only get the data from today moving forward, but also the previous data as well, unless you say stop and then relaunch it, and then you get individual data files that include unique data in each file. For this application, we're going to stop the logger and it will read it out. The first thing HOBOware does is it asks you to save that file in a location. By default, on a Windows machine, it's in a folder called HOBOware, but you can save it anywhere you wish on your computer, and the next time you save a data file, it will go back to that same location. So we're just going to save this in this location right here. And now we get to the plot setup screen. This is where we can select what we've already saved the data. So any changes that we make in this plot setup screen, for example, if we want to change temperature from degrees F to degrees C, or if we want to select dew point, which is calculated by HOBOware in the software itself, these changes will only affect how the data is plotted right now. It doesn't change how the data was originally recorded. The other selection is what we call internal events. Every time a USB cable is connected, every time a host is connected, if you're using an optic logger, it will be recorded. You can choose to display those. They're little tick marks that have time and date stamps, or you can choose to not display them. I'm going to click on None. There is a preference to turn that off or turn it on globally. Offset from GMT, or what is known as UTC, is just the timestamp or the time reference that we're going to use for plotting the data on the screen. It doesn't affect how the data was originally recorded. It's recorded using the start time that it saw from the computer that the logger was launched from. So all we're doing is changing the reference. If we set an offset from GMT, it doesn't affect how the raw data is actually recorded. To see the data, we just click on Plot. There's our data. We don't have a whole lot of data points because we only logged for a short period of time, but basically what you have is you have your tabular data here. If there was more data in this table, we can make the graph smaller by doing this, and we can see all that tabular data. So this was recording every 5 minutes. Here is our XY plot. Our temperature is plotted in the left margin. Our RH is plotted in the right. You can move those around. You can change your time reference at the bottom if you wish. Over here is what we call the details pane. This gives you the information of how the logger was configured by clicking on the little plus sign. We can see what device we were using. Again, keep on clicking on those little plus signs. We see the serial number, model number of the logger. Again, this is common to all the data loggers in the HOBO families that are supported by HOBOware. If we click on deployment info, this is where we find out how the logger was originally configured, what logging interval was used, when it was launched, how many times it's been deployed, etc. So here is our data. We can view it. There's several tools available in HOBOware for zooming, for cropping. There is a lot more information on our website under training. There's advanced HOBOware training that would help you go through that if you want to do some more advanced functions. And if you want to export this to Excel, you just click on File, Export Table Data. Just zoom in on that real quick, or Control E. And then depending on how you have your export preferences set in HOBOware, you can go ahead, select what series you want to export, click on Export, and that data is exported in the format that you selected previously in your preferences. And just real quick, to get to those preferences, you would click on File. In a Mac, it's under HOBOware and then Preferences. On a PC, it's File and Preferences. And then under General, there's your export settings, and you can configure your export product how you wish.